The once mighty Mauryan Empire had crumbled into dust, leaving a vast and silent power vacuum across the rugged Deccan plateau. For years, the land was a mosaic of fractured territories, waiting for a leader to bridge the divide. Around 239 BCE, from the fertile banks of the Godavari River, a new power began to stir. This was the birth of the Satavahana dynasty. From their capital at Pratisthana, they looked out upon a world of potential. The air was thick with the scent of river mud and ambition. This was not just the rise of a family, but the awakening of a central Indian identity. They were the masters of the crossroads, positioned perfectly to link the northern plains with the mysterious southern peninsula. As the dust settled, the foundation for a 400-year legacy was being laid in the very heart of the subcontinent. The era of quiet growth ended when Satakarni I seized the throne. He was a ruler who understood that a kingdom must either expand or wither. Under his command, the Satavahana military became a relentless machine. Imagine the sight of thousands of cavalrymen pushing through dense, untamed forests and over jagged mountain passes where no army had dared to tread. Smaller kingdoms looked on in terror as the Satavahana banners appeared on the horizon. Satakarni was not just a conqueror. He was an architect of borders. He forced local chieftains to bow, not through mere cruelty, but through an overwhelming show of organized force. Elephants laden with supplies marched toward the docks, signaling that the empire was now a bridge for the world's wealth. Every mile gained was a step toward a unified Deccan, turning a riverside settlement into a continental power that could no longer be ignored by the empires of the West. Decades of tension finally culminated in a moment that would define Indian history forever. The great Gautamiputra Satakarni stood upon a windswept battlefield, facing the formidable western Kshatrapas. The air was heavy with the metallic tang of armor and the nervous breath of thousands. This was the ultimate test for the Satavahana bloodline. Gautamiputra looked across the lines at the enemy who had long choked their trade and threatened their sovereignty. He gripped his sword, the hilt cold against his palm. With a single sharp command that echoed above the din of war, he signaled the final charge. "For the Deccan!" he cried. The earth shook as his forces collided with the enemy line. It was a chaotic symphony of clashing steel and desperate shouts. But the Satavahana spirit was unbreakable. They pierced through the Kshatrapa formation like a spear through silk. By sunset, the battlefield was silent, and the enemy was broken. This victory was more than a military triumph. It was a liberation. The western trade routes were finally clear. The blockade was lifted, and the gates to the sea were thrown wide open. Gautamiputra had not just won a battle, he had secured the future of his people and ensured that the wealth of the world would soon flow into their hands. With the wars concluded, a golden age washed over the land. In the ports, Roman ships arrived with hulls heavy with gold coins that shimmered like fire in the Indian sun. Merchants exchanged ivory, spices, and fine textiles for the riches of the Mediterranean. This wealth transformed the landscape. At Amaravati, the sound of hammers and chisels filled the air as artisans carved the very soul of the Buddha into white marble. In the quiet courtyards of the capital, scholars leaned over manuscripts, composing the Gatha Saptashati in the Prakrit tongue, capturing the joys and sorrows of everyday life. It was a society of balance. While goldsmiths fashioned intricate jewelry in the markets, powerful women managed vast estates and made generous donations to the monasteries. Faith and commerce were the twin pillars of this thriving civilization, creating a harmony that resonated from the bustling docks to the silent stupas. By the 3rd century, the political power of the Satavahanas began to fade, like a sunset over the Godavari. Yet, they did not truly vanish. They left behind a unified Deccan and a blueprint for every kingdom that followed. Their story isn't just found in history books. It is etched into the stone of ancient stupas and carried in the rhythm of the rivers that still flow through the heart of India. They were the bridge builders, the warriors, and the poets who proved that from the dust of an empire, greatness can rise and endure forever.